Morning. This is Awakening and Conscious Living. My name is Bill, and
I'm Luisa.
and we are going to discuss stuff about the soul today.
Yes, today we're
What
going to
is
talk
the
about
soul, and I don't know what we do with it, and what it is, and does it disappear after we die, and some other things like that, I think.
yes. So, what is the soul, Bill? Because I'm hoping you have better words than I do for this one.
Do you want to give it a shot first?
I can give it a shot. So, the soul, so my physical representation of what the soul is sort of like we talked about that week. It's like where these little lights of pieces, all those like pictures that they show us where it's like this is what the universe looks like, and it's like a whole bunch of little white dots. When I think about the soul, we are those white little dots of light. That is what I think when I think about what the soul is. In terms of what the soul actually is to me, besides that physical representation, that sort of 3D understanding of it, what the soul is everything and nothing. Like, this could be a whole other episode, but I've been thinking about this a lot because people will say, like, your spirit, your soul. Like, I grew up Catholic, and in Catholicism, we say, I'm going to say it in Spanish. That's how I'm remembering. En nombre del Padre, del Hijo, del Espíritu Santo. Amen, right? And we say that, and we're talking about like our spirit. And I think for me, from a religious perspective, the closest that I can relate the spirit to is my soul. I think about them as being pretty close to the same thing. So the soul is everything that you are, is all of your lifetimes that you have experienced, whether it's on this planet, on another planet. I believe that we reincarnate. I'm going to use that word because that's the best I got. But
Mhm.
that we reincarnate into, many lifetimes as not just humans, but I also believe that we can like be a snake and like that. Some of us were dragons in some lifetimes, and that we live on other planets at some point, and that we are the beings as those other planets. So the soul to me is everything that you are. It's not just who you are in this lifetime, it's who you have been since you were created by source, since you became a part of the collective. That's the best I got, and I don't love that.
Okay. Uh, I'll clarify some of my thoughts on that. I mean, first off, source is consciousness. Okay. So we are just an individuated drop of consciousness. Okay. Um, and it's really just kind of that simple. And uh, so that's our soul. And the word soul, I've said this before, comes from the Latin word, uh, anime, which means to animate. Okay. So it's God consciousness source that animates us. Okay. But it's that one particular, you've seen a prism before, and a prism, when sunlight shines through it, it hits it and breaks into all these different colors. Okay. A soul is kind of like the sunlight being kind of like consciousness, and it hits the prism. You're like a particular shade of color coming out of the prism. Okay.
Yeah.
But our consciousness, even though all of everything that happens throughout the whole universe is recorded, our soul is not a container of experiences. Our soul is more like a cell. It's a container of, hmm, like when I say experiences, like you're not going to be able to, once your soul leaves this body and whatever its next journey is. And actually, I personally believe that a soul can have multiple experiences, lifetimes, whatever you want to call them, simultaneously.
Yes. Yes.
But um, it's not like when you leave this body, you're going to go, oh, I remember this and this and this and all this. What you're really going to remember is like soul growth and
Yes.
what hate is and what love is and what forgiveness is and kind of not the lessons, but the experiences but at a more of a emotional or wisdom level per se. So that's what the soul is and does, because consciousness has to experience it. It doesn't have to, but for consciousness to experience, it has to individuate, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so, for consciousness to experience the all, to experience it itself, it has to individuate from the overall consciousness. And so that's what we are. We're consciousness experiencing itself, right?
Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you. Because that is exactly how I perceive it. You said it in much more clearer words. So I appreciate that quite a bit. I want to touch on a couple of things based on what you said. I don't know. Have you heard the term the Akashic Records?
Yes.
Okay.
And the halls of memento, I think it is.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Mhm.
How's the momentum? Okay, so you can teach me about that one. So I want to talk in terms of what you mentioned, in terms of like soul, like what the soul remembers, because that is correct. I do also believe that we do not leave this lifetime, and then we can remember I was Luisa, and this is what I did, etc. This is who I was at this 3D level. But I am trained in soul realignment. Have I told you this before?
Mm.
Oh, so I am trained in soul realignment. So soul realignment is the practice of learning like who you are at soul level. So with using my intuition, I was trained. This was one of my spiritual trainings that I went through. I was trained to use my intuition to be able to capture who someone is at soul level and to capture a lot of the karmic lessons that that soul is here to learn. And I'll mention just the way that I define karma because I think there are a lot of different definitions of it. But
Mhm.
karma to me is just energetic. It's energetic. I'll get really specific. So let's say that in another lifetime, you were someone who you got married because you had to for social status. This is a big one that comes up a lot.
Okay.
You, especially for women, you got married, you married a man because it was necessary for your family's social, socioeconomic status.
Right.
What that shows up as, let's say that could have been in, whatever lifetime, it doesn't matter what that shows up as, if you have not healed that, which is the importance of when we talk about, generational healing and things like that, it will show up in this lifetime as one of the lessons, if your soul chose that for this lifetime, that you're here to learn is you know, the lesson of sacrifice, something related to sacrifice because you sacrificed. And now energetically, because you woke up after the day that you chose to marry that man, chose to marry that man for your family's socioeconomic situation, you then chose to stay married to that man for another 30, 40 years. Energetically, that is a choice that you continuously made that has stuck with you. You made a choice of sacrifice. In order to heal that, your soul chose lessons that it was going to come here, lessons, experiences that it was going to come here to have, if that's what it chose in this lifetime, to heal that. So that's karma to me. It's very energetic. So it's not necessarily, oh, I killed, you killed my sister, so I'm gonna kill your sister sort of thing. It's energetic. It's like the sacrifice. It's, the belief, the religious, giving yourself to a religious belief and sticking to that till death. And it's the energetic lessons and aspects of it when I think about karma. But
So I have a question.
yes,
Okay. Why, if you came into that time frame, culture, whatever, to learn about sacrifice, why is it that you have to come into this realm for karma to heal that experience?
so why exactly? I think it's different for every single soul. But I think the reason the souls choose to come to this lifetime is based on into any specific lifetime is based on what's happening in this realm at that time. So in this realm, in this 3D world, in the earth at this time, we see what we're going through in terms of, what's going on in the whole world. I'll use myself as an example. For the record, I've never read my own soul. Yeah, people think that's crazy when I read theirs. I don't know that I ever will. Um, One of the things that I think that I feel pretty strongly that I'm here to heal is sacrifice for me. And that has shown up in the experiences that I've had so far. For example, during my marriage, a lot of what I did was sacrifice myself for absolutely every single other person in my household, for my partner, for my children. And I mean like extreme sacrifice. Like I just put myself last, which meant I never got to myself at all. I never cared about myself in any way.
Mhm.
So I believe my soul chose this lifetime because if you look collectively, a lot of us have grown up with the idea, a lot of women have grown up with the idea that that's what you do. As a mother, you put your children first and above yourself. As a wife, you put your husband first and above yourself. And that's what I did. And that's why I came, the culture that I came into, Dominican American, that's you serve your husband. Your husband is all of
A
it.
as it should be.
Oh, Bill.
I'm joking, I'm joking. I had to say that.
But you know what I mean? So I think that's why your soul chooses that. And to your point, I do also believe that we have simultaneous, like I believe there's another version of me living a different life at the same time.
Mhm.
So in this realm, in this lifetime, based on what's going on historically in this country, what's going on in my culture, how I came in and went through a lot of the abuse that I went through, it was all of that to learn the lessons that I needed to learn. So when I
So
think
I
go
so I wanna interrupt you. I wanna
yes.
go back to this healing word, okay?
Ooh, ooh,
I'm not convinced that you're healing from your past sacrifices, okay? I think that you chose to understand what sacrifice was in that experience, that lifetime, and that you came into this lifetime to experience what it's like to love yourself first.
that's so freaking spot on. And so when I say healing, that's that's what I think about. Like that's the way that I perceive it. So I'm for me specifically talking about my own sacrifice and you know, in learning that, that is what I learned. That was the game changer for me was once I learned to love myself, I love my children. I am their mother. And you could use the word sacrifice. I sacrifice
Mhm.
for them in a different way, but I love myself first. I know what self-love is. I did not know self-love until that point. So I think to your point, healing and I think that the nuance of exactly what it looks like for everyone is different. Like, whether it is self-love in that same situation that they're here to learn, like, is it they're supposed to put that first? Are they supposed to understand how to balance sacrifice? You know what I mean? Different things. I think it is very nuanced because when I do the readings for people, what I see is what they're here to heal, and that's not all encompassing as you just, demonstrated, but what they're here to heal, what they're here to experience rather is probably the best way to put it,
There we go.
is so nuanced based on whatever their past life experience was.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. I just wanna, and I don't know that I'm right, but, when we use the word healing, it's like something happened to us, we're not whole,
Mm.
you know, that there's a process that has to happen, okay? Where if you look at it as I was a soul, came into a particular lifetime, one of the lessons I was gonna learn was sacrifice. I mean, could that be painful in this world? Sure, okay? But is that pain necessarily that healing carried on from lifetime to lifetime? No, I think that you learned the experience of sacrifice, and then you came into this world to understand how to move from sacrifice into self love. But is that necessarily healing? Only if you perceive it as healing. It's really just trying to understand both ends of the equation and
Okay.
to bring those two ends of the equation together into wholeness, which I've said is holiness.
I love that. I think that's a great explanation for it, for sure. So let me ask you this. Would you define that as transmuting that energy of sacrifice or balancing that energy of sacrifice?
I would probably this morning uh call it balancing. I mean, it's the we're going to go back to the Tajé, the yin yang, right?
Yep.
You in one lifetime, you experienced a huge section of that blackness, that sacrifice, but inside of that was the little bit of self-love, right?
Yeah.
And now you're coming into this lifetime to experience self-love,
Mm.
but you can't completely experience self-love even in this lifetime without a little bit of that sacrifice inside of it, because it's the contrast that brings about the wholeness.
Yes. I love that. I love those beautiful words. I think that's exactly it. I think using the word healing, as you pointed out, is inaccurate. So I appreciate that.
Sure.
Um and yeah, so I think where I was going with it, I wanted to touch upon the Akashic Records because that's where all of this. So you mentioned how our soul doesn't necessarily carry like the 3D, for lack of a better word, like the 3D experiences. It doesn't remember I was Luisa and I was paralegal and all those things. It remembers the experiences that it had, and that's what it brings with it. From where I stand, like my training is all of that is held in what is called the Akashic Records, which is to me, it's just this visual universal library. Like I love libraries and I just picture like a library of the universe that holds there's a book for my soul, for my soul, Luisa's soul, who I am in this version, but at soul level, and then all of that is written down in there. And so when I do the soul readings, that's what I connect to. So I'm not connecting to you in this lifetime. I'm not connecting to you in any other specific lifetime per se. I'm connecting to that um, energy, that book in essence of who you are at soul level and the experiences that you may have had, um, and therefore gives us more information about what you are here to experience and your soul is ready to balance or transmute um at this specific point whenever you may come to me for like a soul reading specifically, for example, which I don't do much of anymore, for the record.
Mhm.
um but yeah, that's beautiful. And I guess that brings us right into Bill, which we've already kind of touched up on. Do we choose our life lessons or circumstances? How do you see that? How do you think that process goes?
Well, I definitely think I don't think we choose specific experiences, but we definitely choose to come in and go, I learned about sacrifice in the last lifetime. And this lifetime, I want to learn about self love. Yeah, and I believe we come in with soul families, and I believe we choose our parents, and at some level, maybe we choose our siblings and that type of thing. But we do come in as soul families, and we have individualized lessons, but lessons as a group also.
Yeah.
Um, and so we come in and work on all this stuff together.
I have a question for you about that. Where does free will fit into all of that?
Let's say that you're going to go to the beach. Okay.
Mhm,
You made a free will choice to go to the beach, right?
mhm.
And you made a free will choice of, when you were going to go to the beach and what you were going to take with you and all that type of stuff. But once you on your way to the beach and on your way back from the beach and at the beach, the experiences you have there, you can't completely control, right? So you can't control if you walk out in the ocean, there's some waves that are going to hit you, but if you're not paying attention, a big wave might hit you, right? Or you might get pulled in by the undertow, or you're going to experience the coldness of the water and the warmth of the sun simultaneously. Um, you don't, you chose to put yourself in the environment, but the exact experiences that you have are going to happen regardless. But you chose it with your free will. We definitely have free will.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, I same as you. I do believe that um we do choose. I've been historically calling them lessons because as I've been healing, transmuting the experiences from being so one-sided to come to be more balanced,
Mhm.
um, I've experienced so much pain, right? Like we've talked about before, especially the first 2 times that I went through awakenings, and I've been calling them lessons, and that has been shifting for me right now, like, in this space that I am right now, it's I don't love the word lessons because they do feel like experiences. They feel like I'm learning and growing into something. But it's also important to say that at the beginning for me, like in my own experience, I was like, I'm growing and I'm healing this, and then I'm never gonna have to heal that again. Like that's done. Like I'm a master at, not sacrificing or whatever. And yeah, no, that's not
Yeah.
that's not how that goes. It's certainly more of I experience it differently and I may be able to have more balance about it. Like sacrifice, we'll keep talking about that. For me, I don't sacrifice for my children the same way that I used to because I don't put them first. I put me first and I put them second and third or second. And when I say that, I want to be clear because technically, we're all on the same
Right.
you know what I mean? Plane, level, however you wanna look at it, but when it comes to real life 3D decisions, for example, like, am I going to put on my mask first or theirs? In the past, even though they tell you put your mask on first, I would have put theirs on first and died in the process. But now I understand that I need to put my mask on first to be able to actually help them fully get theirs on, or try at least to help them get theirs on. So yeah, that's a great example of that. And I just wanna point out that, you know, if you don't wanna be arrogant like I was during my first one, I was like, "I got this, like, I learned that, I'm good, like, I know everything there is to know about not sacrificing." And, yeah, that's something that I learned to be quite different, but with regards to soul family, so this is one of the reasons that I decided to become, like, a certified soul realignment practitioner was because I realized, and I think this happens when you develop your intuition. I realized early on that I have this amazing ability to recognize my soul family. And I think this is true for all of us. This is true for every single one of us. So, this ability to recognize, who my soul family is, like I mentioned last week, sitting on Saturn with this other soul that I recognize in this lifetime.
Mhm.
And that has happened a few times. What happened the first time that that happened was with that soul that I was sitting on Saturn on, who I mentioned is actually a really negative experience for me in this lifetime. I recognized that soul, and because I did not have the awareness of what was happening, what I called that in 3D was this really strong connection that I was like, this must mean something. This must mean we're meant to be, we're meant to have, and you feel it because the first time you experience it, it feels so strong, and you've never experienced anything that tells you you're on that path and that that's meant for you and that resonates with you so much that a lot of us, I think, misinterpret what that is. Maybe the first few times, I think for me, it was definitely the first few times that I had that experience. I misinterpreted what that relationship was, what that person was meant to be in this lifetime. And you don't always need to marry them because that's what I thought. I was like, you don't feel that. There are the most beautiful soul connections that I have right now are friends. So beautiful. They are, part of my soul family that I've experienced other lifetimes with.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Marriage is a institution of the world. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
just so everybody realizes this.
Yes, it
This is
is
a
not.
rules that we made up here. Okay,
Yes, yes. But in this 3D world, the way that we have been sold by Disney, what marriage means, and I'm sorry, I will call out Disney and Hallmark, which I love Hallmark, but the way that we have been made to understand what love is, what romantic love is, and all these definitions that we've applied to it. When I first met my first soul connection, it was like, that's what it looks like in the movies. That's what it must be, you know?
right.
And it's not. The most beautiful soul connections that I have are friends. And one of my children is like a soul family member too. Um, so that's something to be aware of because that's easy and it caused me a lot of like I was very angry with myself for a long time for not recognizing that because in the 3D world of the impact that it had for me
Mhm.
until of course I accepted that I'm a soul having a human experience and that soul came here to help me make sure that I had those experiences or to be a contributor that I had those
Yeah,
experiences that I intended to come here and have.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, souls can do all type of stuff. They can, as a parent, you provide an environment for a soul to thrive or not thrive. Okay. Uh, and sometimes a parent or a friend are You know, you can call them an enemy per se. And these are all just, I mean, they're all just words that we use to describe stuff, right? But somebody that you have conflict with can make you stronger, right? And so, yes, we probably all know that they either make us stronger, or we fall uh, under the hammer and get smashed. But that's an experience also.
Yes.
Um, so it's in that conflict, in the love and in the conflict, okay,
Yeah.
that we get these experiences that bring about wholeness inside of us. And wholeness is just the balance of being able to hold both things at one time.
Let's see. The next question is, what does it mean to live from soul instead of ego? I think we touched upon that last week, but what does it mean for you to live from soul instead of ego?
Um, when you've touched on it, it's you get there by following your intuition, but the soul doesn't hold an identity. Okay. It's not Bill. It's not male. It's not I'm intelligent or I'm not intelligent or any of those things. The soul just holds the consciousness. To function in this world, I think we've talked about this a little bit. To function in this world, our brains have to dissect stuff, right? If I'm going to tell you, you know, hey, when you get to the beach, there's this path on the left. You're going to have to walk down it about 500 steps or whatever, and then you're going to see this. I mean, that's all like, what are 500 steps? You know, we have to have numbers. And, you know, if I'm going to tell you it's 100 miles to drive from here to Nashville or something, you know that it's going to take you an hour and a half in a car at 60 miles an hour, all these things. And if somebody's braking in front of me, I know that I've got to brake at a certain level or I'm going to run into them in the car, right? And a thousand other things. Okay. So the brain is always dissecting. Okay. And so that is important to have our brain to be able to dissect and function in the world. But it's the identification that we make with all these things that, I'm a doctor, I'm a this, I'm a that. That is the ego. Okay. That's different than functioning in the world. That's the ego. And so, but the soul is egoless. It has no identity. Okay. And so when you're operating out of soul, you're operating out of no identity.
Yeah. And that I'll share for me when I've met soul connections, there is no identity to them. Like if I can leave my thinking brain out of it and all of
Right.
the imposed things that the world has projected upon me that I've accepted to be truth. So if I do let my brain get in the middle of it, then that's when I assign, oh, this is a romantic relationship, or that's when I assign, oh, this is a friendship. But when I actually meet souls that I have a connection with, whether they're soul family or soul that I have contracts with to come across in this lifetime, that's what it feels like. It just feels like purity. It feels like love, really. There's no other way to explain it other than it just feels like pure love. And there's, then we assign it everything else. Everything else.
It's authentic. It's
Yeah.
maskless.
Yeah.
Uh, the the soul is like a river. It just flows. I was talking with somebody the other day, and they were talking about this negative experience that they had, talking about healing from it, but they were using that negative experience to define their current environment
Mhm.
and really to um, define their identity.
Mhm.
I am this person that had this negative experience and I don't want to experience that again. And I'm viewing this situation that I'm in out of this lens, this old lens. Okay. Well, we're identifying with our past experiences and seeing our current reality through it could be a positive experience too, but it seems that the negative experiences hold us back more. And so that's how we view our current reality. But as you identify less with your wounds, your negative experiences, all those things, then you stay in the soul river, in that flow per se, and you just let life present itself to you without identity, without conditions, without, let's say, without desires, but because there are some desires, because that's what stirs the soul, without all those things. And you can look at reality in a pure way.
As
Okay.
you were saying that, one of my favorite quotes, probably my all-time favorite quotes that make sense now, it kind of aligns with, like, what the soul is, right? And in terms of how we experience it and can put it into words here. And it's unknown who said this quote, but I just want to make it very clear that it was not me, but I love it. It says, "Peace, it does not mean to be a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of all those things and still be calm in your heart."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's exactly right.
yeah,
I mean, we have to create our own peace. Okay. And creating our own peace is basically just letting go of all the things that make us unpeaceful.
yeah. And I think when you're more connected to who you are at soul level versus your ego-driven self and your human self, just because of the mental constructs that we've created here, for me at least, that's where I have found the most peace because I feel like that river where it flows. Like I know that if it's flowing and that other quote, I have no idea who said it either, but like, this too shall pass sort of thing. When
Mm,
I'm in that state, I can remember that I am a river and it's just gonna keep on going. It's gonna happen and then it's gonna pass too, you know?
exactly. And think
Um,
about how a river moves. I mean, our water, it flows wherever it needs to flow. It wears through whatever it needs to wear through. It just keeps moving. That's kind of how we're supposed to move through life.
yeah, without
Don't have
holding
any
on.
attachments. Water doesn't have any attachments, right?
That's what I was gonna say, without
You
holding
can hit
on.
it with a stick. I don't think it has pain, right? There's no suffering there. There is no, but there's intelligence. Water is very intelligent.
Right?
Water holds intelligence. It holds emotions too.
Yeah, yeah. And you see that in the way that it flows without dramatic flares necessarily, right? Like it just in the way that it flows, you see what it holds. And I think that's also true for our experience. And what do you think helps people reconnect with their soul? For people who may not feel connected to their soul, for people who may not understand who they are at soul level, what do you think helps people reconnect?
Let me breathe into that for a second. Would say, just like I'm doing now, is just quiet yourself and just breathe. And you look out here and then look what's looking out from your eyes.
Mm,
What is looking out from your eyes?
that's really good.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
you sit Go sit in the park or something or anywhere. Sit in your living room and just look around and go, what is looking at that lamp? What is looking at that plant? And then you'll start to connect back to that powerful consciousness that's inside of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think that's it. It always comes back to stillness for me, to silence, to being with yourself because I mentioned to you before, I feel like I have the whole universe within me, inside of me, and that is why, is because when I can sit there and I can close my eyes and maybe part of it is part of that developed clairvoyance that I have, but I can
Mhm.
actually see the universe. Not only can I feel it, can I perceive it in my body, but I can see the universe. It's I have this visual of what the universe looks like. And whether it's true for someone else or not, it is my truth. I know for me that anything that I need, my soul, if I feel that I need it in this lifetime, my
Mhm.
soul is prepared for it to show up for me in this lifetime. I just have to be in tune with
You're gonna have to teach us how to do that.
it.
See the universe inside of us. I don't know that I see it exactly that way. Not
No,
that I have to see it the way you see it, but
but it's so gosh, and I think, we talked about a little bit about, that connecting and reconnecting. I think that's why for me, I can't stop talking about my experience, like my awakenings and why I'm sitting here having this conversation with you and sharing this journey is
mhm,
because once it awoken in me, it was like, I know exactly at soul level who I am. Like, I know what I am in quotation marks because I'm a soul. Once I recognized that and started to do the practices, the stillness, the breath work, I took a breath work 1 hour course that was so healing. People had told me for such a long time how powerful breath work was, and I was like, "Cool, yeah, I breathe." When I'm meditating, I sit. When I'm at the park, I take deeper breaths and whatnot. Breath work. I took a 1 hour class of breath work, and yes, I was in tears at the end of it.
mhm,
Oh my gosh, what I healed in that 1 hour would have probably taken months in therapy.
mhm,
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but the power of our breath it's you have to experience it. It's one of those things that you do have to experience. And that in combination with stillness and in combination with developing whatever gifts you do have, it just assured me that I'm walking the path at soul level that I came here to walk.
mhm. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, this about this breathwork stuff, I mean, what's Jesus say? Man does not live on bread alone, but, uh, on the breath of God or on every breath of God or something like that. Um, but if we don't think about this, but this is an interesting thought process about how powerful our environment and breath is. A tree is basically carbon. It's made out of carbon, okay? A tree sucks water out of the earth, a lot of water out of the earth, but there's no carbon in water. It's H2O, hydrogen and oxygen, and the nutrients that the tree pulls out of the ground don't have a carbon in them either. So the carbon that a tree is using to create wood is being sucked out of the oxygen around it. And so a tree is breathing. I know. And you think about a big tree that's been there for 100 years or 50 years or a month is literally pulling carbon out of this gas and pulling it into itself and creating fibrous carbon wood out of it.
Oh my
It's
god.
amazing.
That is amazing.
And we're not that much different. There's a Buddhist exercise where you hold your breath. Have we done this yet?
No.
That you hold your breath as long as you can. Okay. So you just hold your breath. And then when you can't hold anymore, you breathe in, right? Well, you start looking at it from the fact that you can't hold your breath. So as soon as you stop trying to hold your breath, are you really breathing in or is the oxygen being pushed into your lungs? Play with it. I mean, you can play with it. I'm
I'm
not
gonna
going to go
play with
through
it.
the
Okay.
exercise, but play with that for a while. And once you get to that level, you realize you're not even breathing. The universe is breathing for you.
That's beautiful.
Those Buddhists, they're smart.
They're so smart. So smart. So smart. There's so much wisdom, and that's what it made me think of when you were explaining about the tree. An old tree, I imagine. Think about how much wisdom it holds,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? If it's breathing in, You know, that collective energy, again, it becomes so important because the collective energy, from my perspective, it's not just the collective energy of us human beings, it is also the trees and the plants and the ground and all of it,
Oh, it's all of it.
all of it.
The water too. The water's
The
just so
water.
intelligent.
Yeah, yeah.
We go back to who's looking out of our eyes, that soul, what is going on there. And I told you about my Kundalini experience where everybody had firebolts coming out of their pupils. And it's a saying that the pupils are a window to the soul. So you start thinking about that. These are your windows to the soul.
The importance of looking other people in the eye then becomes significant. Do you believe that?
That's you want to see whether somebody's telling the truth, what their actions, reactions, just watch them real close. Watch their face, watch their eyes.
Yeah,
And you can feel, at an intuitive level,
yeah.
what's going on.
And use those other cues, to kind
Yeah.
of support that if you need 3D supporting evidence.
But if I need something from you, or I have some hidden agenda, and then I'll have a harder time reading your cues because I'm masking, right?
Yes, and that's important. I'm glad you said that because I've shared with you, I have known, that I've known that I'm intuitive like the rest of us for a long time, like, probably since I was a kid. However, the mask that I put on or the truth that I accepted or took in at some point, especially during my childhood, was of the fact that I needed others to survive because that's something that I was made to believe, right? Like, I needed others to survive who did not love me, therefore, it was like I needed to do something to get what I needed from them.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And that created this mask that I put on and carried for a very long time, where I only saw people in terms of what do they want from me for me to be able to get what I need from them.
Right. Very transactional.
Yes, and that mask carried me through, most of my life in survival mode.
Right.
And therefore, I had this inability to see people for who they were because I was just trying to figure out what I needed to give them for me to get what I needed from them. A
Exactly.
mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, listeners, viewers, be aware of your masks because they can dictate our experience. And that goes with saying that some of us are supposed to experience that. So don't beat yourself up, but certainly be aware. Think deeper. Ask why. I always say that the question of why is going to take you a lot deeper than any other question. Why, why, why? And it's with the good and the bad. Um, because the experience that I've learned the most from so far in my life has been an experience with someone who came in with the mask that they wanted to do something good for me. Had I been in touch with my own intuition and aware of the signs, I would have seen that that was a mask to get something else from me. And so when I say be aware of your masks, is because you may, be able to experience something differently, maybe with less pain than you would otherwise if you don't ask yourself the question of why. Why does that person want to do the good and the bad? Why does that person want that for me? Why? And just get as deep as you can into those whys to get your soul level experiences and hopefully have us experience it in the least painful way in this realm. And those are my closing words. Bill, do you want to add something?
No, just remember to love yourself. Remember you're not of this world. Do not conform yourself to this world, but be transformed by the renewing your mind that you know the perfect will of God, which is your perfect will, the will of your soul.
Yes. And I'm gonna end that with amen.
Amen. Namaste.
Yep.
Y'all take care.
Until next time.
Until next time.